3rd, 2024 to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence to remember those who served our country in the past and for those who continue to protect our country today. Please note that the emergency exits and the door you came in, the door is at the end of the hall, and the door is behind us. Thank you. Okay. At this time, we're going to go into executive session to discuss a resolution that's on the agenda tonight. I move to go into executive session to discuss matters relating to proposed pending or current litigation. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please take your packets. It's in there for you guys to look at. Do you want to mention the courtroom again?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have additional seating in the courtroom if you'd like to go and sit down. There are speakers in there, so you'll be able to hear what is recorded. Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to return to the regular town board session.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let me run through the agenda items. Number 1 is our June 25th minutes. Number 2 is a settlement of the tax cert. Craig, do you want to just explain the tax cert?
Yes, the assessor and I felt that this was a favorable settlement. 2 out of 4 of those properties resulted in no reduction, and we also felt that the cost to litigate would be prohibitive to the town. So the assessor and I are recommending the nominal reductions as stated in the consent judgment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then let's get started. Mercy?
Yep. Whereas Town Clerk Lorene Abatantuano has provided copies of the minutes of the June 25th, 2024 regular Town Board meeting to all members of the Beekman Town Board, and whereas Town Board members have had the opportunity to review said minutes, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board hereby accepts the minutes of the June 25, 2024 regular Town Board meeting.
I'll second that.
Town board discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Capillari?
Aye.
Councilman Benalini?
Aye.
Councilman Lemek?
Aye.
Councilwoman Warman?
Aye.
Supervisor Capucci?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Whereas there's now pending in the Dutchess County Supreme Court a tax certiorari proceeding commencement in 2023 by Vincent Boetti and Maria Boetti regarding certain real property located in the town of Beekman and designated as tax map numbers 132200-6659-00642626-0000. The address is 624 Clap Hill Road. And 638 Clap Hill Road, and DeForest Road, and also on Route 55 on the official assessment map, seeking a change in the tax exemptions for the properties as shown on the 2023 tax assessment roll. And whereas the town assessor and town attorney have recommended a negotiated settlement of the 2023 tax review, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Beekman hereby approves a settlement on behalf of the town of Beekman the tax review proceeding for tax year 2023 as follows. Resolved that the town supervisor, town assessor, and town attorney to the town of Beekman are hereby authorized to take all action necessary and appropriate to effectuate the terms of this resolution.
I'll second.
Town board discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Capelari.
Aye.
Councilman Bedellini.
Aye.
Councilman Limak.
Aye.
Councilwoman Warman.
Aye.
Supervisor Cavucci.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Whereas the bookkeeper has audited and approved claims pursuant to Section 119 of Town Law as set forth in the attached abstracts, be it resolved that payment therefore is hereby authorized as follows. Claims to be paid from the A General Fund, $325,068.99. Claims to be paid from the DA Highway Fund, $65,989.92. Claims to be paid from the SS Dover Ridge Sewer, $4,347.37. Claims to be paid from the SW Dover Ridge Water, $2,049.11. Claims to be paid from the T Trust Fund, $4,759.80. Claims to be paid from the H Capital Fund, $1,615.14, for a total of $403,830.33. Payroll number 4, General Fund, $46,046.40. Highway Fund, $22,314.53, for a total of $68,360.93. Payroll number 15, General Fund, $66,232.18. Highway Fund, $25,299.16, for a total of $91,531.34. The payment on the A General Fund is so high because it includes our liability insurance payment, a health care payment, open space bond payment of $138,000, and the purchase for highway of a skid steer and a trailer for the skid steer.
I'll second.
Town board discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Capelari.
Aye.
Councilman Bedellini.
Aye.
Councilman Limak.
Aye.
Councilwoman Warman.
Aye.
Supervisor Cavucci.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Thank you. At this time, I went a little out of order, I apologize, but if anyone had any public comments on the agenda items, feel free to come up. Okay. Anybody have any other town board business?
I have one thing.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say one thing to someone very special in the town of Beekman. Mrs. Hogan is going to turn 100 years old on July 30th, so I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday.
Okay. Our next regular board meeting is Tuesday, August 20th at 6 p.m. Our public hearing is scheduled to start at 6:45. What time is it?
37 or 27.
Oh, we're going to have to wait the 15 minutes. We're not permitted to start it before 6:45. We do have more seats in the back with a speaker system that you can hear everything that's going on in the courtroom if you so choose to take a seat. Here it is. Okay, if you choose, we have more seats in the back that if you wanted to.
We can't hear you back there. There are more seats in the back. They got the speakers back there. We're good.
Thank you.
But we should be able to hear you in here. That would be nice.
Well, we've not had that problem before, so we'll all speak much louder. Thank you. Excuse me. Hello, we're going to start the public hearing. We're going to start the public hearing. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I make a motion, excuse me. Okay, thank you. Thank you. At this time, I make a motion to open the public hearing on Local Law 2024-1 to abolish the elected office of Town Superintendent of Highways and to create a consolidated Department of Public Works at 6:45 p.m. A second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm going to ask Merson to read the local law information.
A local law entitled Abolishing the Elective Office of Town Superintendent of Highways and Creating a Department of Public Works. Be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Beekman, County of Dutchess, State of New York as follows. This local law shall be referred to as a local law abolishing the elected office of Town Superintendent of Highways and creating a Department of Public Works. By abolishing the elective office of Town Superintendent of Highways and creating a Department of Public Works, the Town Board will have more flexibility to make its departments operate more efficiently, to conserve financial resources, and to manage and supervise those responsible for maintaining town buildings, parks, grounds, and highways. This will also give the Town Board the ability to ensure sufficient qualifications of the individuals serving in positions which oversee departmental functions and provide regular oversight and accountability to ensure the duties of the town's departments are completed in as cost-effective, efficient, and responsible manner as possible. Creating a Department of Public Works will also permit the town to utilize town equipment such as snowplows, vehicles, and other equipment purchased by the town for highway purposes, for buildings, parks, grounds, projects, and maintenance without making additional and wasteful payments to the office of the town highway superintendent as is now legally required. It is the Town Board's present intention to appoint the currently elected highway superintendent to fill the appointed position of highway superintendent within the Department of Public Works. The new Town Code, Chapter 28. A new Chapter 28 shall be added to the Town Code entitled Department of Public Works and shall read as follows. Section 28.1, elective office abolished. The elective office of Town of Beekman Highway Superintendent shall be abolished as of December 31st, 2024. Section 28.2, creation of Department of Public Works. The Town of Beekman Department of Public Works shall be created as of January 1, 2020. Section 28-3, Department of Public Works. The Department of Public Works, hereby created by the Town Board, shall be organized in conformity with the procedures required by Town Law, Section 6421-A, the Highway Law, and other applicable laws, rules, and regulations. Section 28.4, mandatory referendum. Section 28-4A, this local law is subject to mandatory referendum according to the provisions of Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 23. Section 28.4B, the following questions shall be submitted to the electors to consider the approval of this chapter. Quote, shall local law number 1 of 2024 entitled a local law abolishing the elective office of Town Superintendent of Highways and creating a Department of Public Works in order to streamline town operations and reduce costs be approved, end quote. Town Code Chapter 34, Article 2 to be deleted. Upon the effective date of this local law, current Chapter 34 of the Town of Beekman Code entitled Terms of Office shall be amended by deleting Article 2 entitled Highway Superintendent in its entirety. Section 4, superseding and repealer provisions. This local law is adopted pursuant to the authority granted by Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 10 and 23, and shall supersede any provision of Town Law, Section 20, to the extent inconsistent with the same and to the extent permitted by the New York State Constitution, the Municipal Home Rule Law, or any other statute determined to be in conflict with the provisions hereof. Section 5, severability. If any part or provision of this local law or the application thereof to any person or circumstance be adjudged invalid by any court of competent jurisdiction, such judgment shall be confined in its operation to the part or provision or application directly involved in the controversy in which such judgment shall have been rendered and shall not affect or impair the validity of the remainder of this local law or the application thereof to other persons or circumstances, and the Town Board of the Town of Beekman hereby declares that it would have passed this local law or remainder thereof had such invalid application or invalid provisions been apparent. Section 6, repeal. All ordinances, local laws, and parts thereof inconsistent with this local law are hereby repealed for the effective period. Section 7, effective date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State and after approval of a majority of the electors voting thereon in accordance with the requirements of Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 23.
Thank you, Merson. At this time, Danny's going to start the PowerPoint, and Mr. McKay will narrate it. You go to the next.
Good evening, everyone. There's a lot of people here tonight, so we want to make sure we try to get through this as easily as possible. We want to make sure that you can all hear the people that are up here in the front, and we want to make sure that we can hear you and get your comments in the record of the public hearing. We thought it would be a good idea, since there has been some misinformation floating around, we thought it would be a good idea to try to explain, get some basic facts out to you about the law so that you can be better informed when you make your comments. So before we just start the PowerPoint,
Joe, can I interrupt you for 1 second? I forgot to ask. Could I ask the town clerk if the resolution and affidavit of publication of the official notice has been entered into the record?
It has.
Okay. And any written comments, they also need to be entered into the, if you receive them, into the record? Thank you.
did. I have...
Sorry, Joe.
Hold on, I'll tell you. I have 4 of them.
Okay, so they get into the record. Go ahead, Joe.
sure. So on June 25th of 2024, the town board adopted a resolution scheduling this public hearing to consolidate the highway department and the maintenance parks department. Since that time, there have been a series of posts made on social media sites concerning alleged purported detrimental effects that the local law would have on town employees and town residents. So again, the town board wants to make you aware of some basic facts about the local law. So we can go forward with the PowerPoint now. Do you want to go to the next page? Or is it?
Danny, where do you want to start?
Okay. So as indicated, we don't expect any changes, or the town board doesn't expect to make any changes with respect to town personnel. The current office of the highway superintendent is elected. That position, if the local law is adopted, will be by appointment. There will be no change in the duties of the highway superintendent. The town board has stated several times that they have no intention to remove or change the highway superintendent. The same with respect to the mechanic, the maintenance mechanic. So again, no changes to personnel with respect to Mr. Coviello, or if you can go back to the prior gentleman's name, or to Mr. Cole. There'll be no changes in any of the agreements, any of the collective bargaining agreements with the highway department employees or the parks and maintenance employees.
Okay.
So this local law, if adopted, will not have a negative impact on staffing levels in the town. The town board does not intend to eliminate any positions, lay off any employees, or otherwise decrease staffing levels. The local law, if adopted, will not change, will not modify, or have any effect on the collective bargaining agreements with the unions, and it will not change the working conditions for any of the town employees. The local law, if adopted, will not reduce or decrease or impair the quality or level of service performed with respect to paving, plowing, and other maintenance to town roads that are performed by the current town highway department employees and the highway superintendent. And it will not decrease, reduce, or impair the quality or level of service performed with respect to work and maintenance performed on our buildings, parks, and recreation facilities by the Maintenance and Parks Department. The town board has determined that considering this is small print. The town board has determined that consolidating the Highway and Maintenance Parks Department will result in a number of benefits to the town and thereby to town residents and taxpayers. Consolidation of the departments will allow our employees to complete both routine and special projects together with shared equipment, shared manpower, and shared resources. It will reduce project costs by eliminating the antiquated and ineffective obligation for the town to reimburse the highway department when equipment or manpower from that department is needed to complete projects performed by the town's Maintenance and Parks Department. Consolidation will also eliminate the need to purchase duplicative equipment for the departments, thereby reducing costs to operate the departments and reducing the tax burden for town residents. Finally, the proposed local law, if it's adopted, is subject to a mandatory referendum, meaning that the approximate 9,000 registered voters in the town of Beekman will get to cast their vote in favor or against the consolidation of the departments at the next town election in November.
Thank you, Joe. Councilman Badalini, at this time, we're going to welcome public comments on the local law 2024-1, and I think Joe's going to talk about the guidelines.
Sure. Again, so for those of you that watch frequently, each January the town board has what's called this reorganization meeting. And each January the town board adopts certain rules of decorum for public meetings. And this past January, they did that just like they normally do. So the only reason, this is really just a reminder, there are a lot of people here. We don't want people speaking over each other or yelling out or clapping. This will help the town board and all of us up here hear your comments. It will help each other, your co-residents, hear your comments as well. And I'm sure if you want to come up here and you want to speak, you want to make sure your comments are heard by everyone and that they're accurately put in the record. So that's the purpose of reading some of these basic ground rules for you before we start with the public comment. So there'll be 3 minutes for public comment as the town board previously adopted. When you get to the 3-minute mark, you'll be asked to wrap up your comments. If you have written comments that you'd like to submit, you can submit them to the town clerk pursuant to the rules the town's adopted previously. If you make the written submission, that's fine, but you then also don't get 3 additional minutes to make the same comments verbally. So if you have any written submissions, I don't know if the clerk would want to take them now.
That's fine.
Does anybody, by show of hands, does anybody have any written comments that they'd like to give to the town clerk? No one? Okay. All right, so please make sure that your comments are addressed to the town board as a body collectively and not to any individual member. Please observe certain matters of decorum. For instance, we want to ensure that members of the public who attend tonight's meeting can be heard in a fair and impartial manner. We want to ensure that the meetings of the town board, or this meeting of the town board, is conducted in a way which is open to everybody's viewpoint, which is protective of the content of every speaker and the message they want to convey, and it must be free from any abusive, distracting, or intimidating behavior. We ask that any people refrain from any inappropriate or obstructive behavior as the public hearing goes forward, including, please be reminded, you can't defame or intimidate anybody or make any personal affronts or threats. And please, among each other, please pay attention to your co-residents. please refrain from shouting out or clapping or other things as the meeting goes forward. We really appreciate your listening to this and your attention to this, because just by the number of people that are here shows how important the issue is to you. And the town board wants to get the facts out to you and wants to be able to hear you. So with that, I thank you. And
Okay, before we start, I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones. And Joanne Latuso, would you please start us off?
Joanne Latuso, 66 Gabriel's Path, town resident as well as assistant to the Highway Superintendent Tony Coviello. I am presenting the board with 642 signatures of Beekman residents opposed to this new law. The board stated that they wanted to supervise those responsible for highways and conserve financial resources. This is a pure power grab. This will not conserve finances. This board does not work with the highway superintendent for the best interest of the residents. No board member since Mary began as supervisor has ever stepped foot into the highway office or even called to introduce themselves. Ask yourself, if this board wanted to work with the highway superintendent, wouldn't they introduce themselves and find out how the department runs? Well, they haven't. They are all just puppets for this administration. Many of you are aware of the micromanaging of the time clocks. By law, Tony needs to certify payroll, which he does. However, he continues to use the time clock he implemented when he took office 14 years ago. This administration implemented a second time clock in 2021, which they told Tony he would have access to. However, this never happened. It was a lie. There's only one appointed highway superintendent in Dutchess County, as appointing one is not common practice. An elected highway superintendent by New York State law is a non-working position, which means no physical labor. A highway superintendent's job is to work within the budget of the town board sets for him, as well as oversee the workers and answering to the public. Tony is on call 24/7 and receives numerous calls for roads blocked and weather-related emergencies. This board claims the new law is to help conserve financial resources. Ask yourself these questions. Why would the board defund the deputy highway superintendent in 2020 and in the same year start a budget line for the deputy town supervisor at $1950 a year, which is now up to $2,600 a year? Why would they subcontract work, always done by the maintenance department, to Neve Landscaping, costing our taxpayers over $130,000 in just over 2 years? Why would they practically defund the highway's permanent improvements line, which pays for repaving of the roads? If this position becomes appointed versus elected, we, the residents, lose our voice in choosing who controls the infrastructure. Keep your right to vote. The town of Beekman has some of the best maintained roads in Dutchess County. Ask yourself, why would this administration want to change that? If this becomes an appointed position, 1, it does not need to be a town resident who knows our roads. 2, the appointee would need to be paid overtime by New York State law. An elected official cannot receive overtime. I can tell you the overtime hours Tony puts in during a storm would cost the town more than the salary of the appointed highway superintendent. We, the residents, lose our voice. Everything will be determined solely by the town board. There has been so much corruption in this small town, some of which has happened under the watch of this administration. Why would we, the voting public of the town of Beekman, want to give up our right to vote for highway superintendent
Thank you, Joanne.
and give this town board more control? There's no transparency with this board. I'm going to close. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts.
Next up, Doug DeMasi.
Don't give this administration absolute power.
Thank you.
How can I follow that? If it works, don't fix it. I've been in town since 1970s. If it works, don't fix it. Tony, how many times has any of the board members gone out with you guys 3 o'clock in the morning? There you go. How about repairing the roads? The roads are always clean, maintained. You got a problem, you call up, they're out there. You know who's out there. This woman, I could never even follow with her speech. Phenomenal. But I'm saying it works. This is not saving anybody money. This is not saving the town any money. And I'd like to know whose idea was it to switch. All this is a power grab. The town board wants to control your life, they want to control Tony, and sooner or later, they're going to get rid of Tony. That's all it is. It's not saving any money, it's not replacing anybody. They're going to replace with their own puppets. That's who they're going to replace. One by one, they're going to go, and we don't know about it. Tony's been around forever. We've had our fights before. We've had our fights later on. We're like brothers. I can tell you this. He busts his ass 7 days a week, 24/7, just like the highway guys do. They go out there and they do the grunt work. If it's raining, snowing, whatever it may be, they do the work. The roads are immaculate. Look at the trucks. After every storm, what do? They wash them down to preserve the trucks. That's what they do, and the roads and everything else. This is no more than a power grab. And what would happen next is they're going to go after the clerk's job. They want complete control over our lives, what gets done, what doesn't get done. And as the young lady said before, is being corrupt. This is a corrupt politician board, I assure you. I guarantee it. And we need to have Tony and the clerk there. We need to leave it. It works, don't fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Lyon? Next.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Lynham, 15 Dove Court, LaGrangeville. I and others are here to address concerns about doing away with our Highway Department Superintendent's position. The jobs of the town board include the highway superintendent's positions are elected. It is our choice by majority vote by residents, taxpayer, voters. The guidelines are dictated by New York State. The duties of a town supervisor entail the following: to receive, disperse, and account for all monies belonging to the town. The duties of the highway superintendent are as follows: knowledge of road construction, grading, drainage, safety, traffic control, plowing, sanding, trimming brush, surveying, paving principles and maintenance, traffic signs, legal liabilities and limitations, and preventative maintenance. New York State oversees the basic guidelines for both positions. As the widow of a former highway superintendent, John Lynham, I can personally attest to the responsibilities of this position. One must know all that was listed above. This knowledge is not known by all. I seriously doubt we would want anyone without this knowledge overseeing these responsibilities. While I respect the efforts of the town board, I expect respect for our town's people by the town board. We don't need decisions being made behind closed doors or in private sessions to a point where such efforts are presented to we the people at the 11th hour with little to no time to protest what has trickled out to the public. We the people are thousands of residents, taxpayer, voters. We are owed transparency and a voice in the actions that affect our town. We can achieve much more for our town when we work together and those elected hear and listen to those who voted you into office. There is no room here for personal agendas or power plays. I can tell you firsthand of some difficult circumstances encountered by John when he was our highway super, but also by every other highway super. It seems when someone has been long in a job and someone new comes along, the longer-term employees resent the new person. Some have caused disruption, dissension, dishonesty, theft, situations of concern for safety. This all happened under John's term, but some of it has continued to happen in all the years since. The highway super must act in a fair-minded way and within legal boundaries when incidences are being reviewed. Retaliation has often occurred. Nothing says you have to like each other, but you need to make decisions together with respect for each other and for the good of our town. It appears there is much dissension between the town board and the highway super. Neither should ever forget that all were voted into their positions. Our highway super, Tony Coviello, is doing his job. He is available, attentive, responsive, and knowledgeable. Despite the woes of disgruntled employees, the town board that thinks we don't need a highway super. I have heard that the town board...
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you. Thank you. It's 3 minutes. I'm sorry. It's 3 minutes.
Mary, it is vital.
Lauren O'Connell?
I'm sorry, it's 3 minutes.
I will finish
You
with
can
one
submit it.
remark.
You can submit it if you want.
I have submitted it.
That's great.
I want to say my final remark. I will cut out some of it. This is my
Okay,
last
that's
remark.
fine. That's fine.
When the idea of government willingly overtaking the ideas and rights of the people they govern is at hand, remember that the jobs you eliminate may very well be your own.
Hold on a second, I have a question. You said 3 minutes would go up, and then they would have time to finish what she did. So you're ending it at 3 minutes, which is wrong, because rewind the tape. That's what you guys said.
We've waited, we wait, and then we tell them that there's 3 minutes. But if it's not 30 more...
It can't go on another 3 minutes.
No,
and then
it
you
can't.
go finish it up.
Okay, could you
But
start?
You're ending them at 3 minutes.
Okay.
You're telling them to stop. You're wrong.
Okay, thank you.
So
Could you...
go for another minute afterwards.
My name is Lauren O'Connell. I live at 69 Vansquay Road in Dalton Farm. So I had concerns that I had thought about prior, and then listening to what you guys had said. Any interactions that we've had with the highway department, I don't technically live on a town road, but my parents do, one over on Roosevelt. Tony has always been great, very responsive. They had an issue, he came right out. So to speak to that, he's great, I've been happy. But I have other issues regarding the supervisor position and the council. So my question is, are you guys going to absorb the budget of the highway superintendent now that he's going to be appointed as opposed to elected? Because I have concerns about that considering past embezzlement, theft, and I guess loss or miscalculation. I remember sitting here a few years ago when the town accountant had lost or misplaced about $500,000 that no one had caught. Not one council member, not the supervisor. Granted, you were not the supervisor, but I don't even know if that has changed or there's any mechanism or system that has changed that. So that is a huge concern of mine, because I don't think that the highway department has lost or misplaced any money that they've been allocated, that there's been any issues with that in particular. I also feel like your grievances, I'm not completely aware of what you guys know, because there's executive sessions and maybe there's rigorous debate that goes on there, but I'm not privy to that. I'm only privy to what I hear and what's said in front of me. But you can share your grievances and your debate with the public and then let the electorate decide. If we feel like you're valid and legitimate, then we can go to the polls and we can choose whether to vote for the candidate in front of us or not. I don't think that you need to take this on yourselves. I also have a question about whether a SWOT analysis was done. And I don't know if anybody can answer that, because that specifically should have been done, especially with regard to what you guys have all been talking about. Because it seems like the hopes and wishes that this is going to be some great highway department into a public works, but you need to do, follow these and get those done and share them with the public. There need to be real facts and figures. What else? And I also feel like, there are other responsibilities that you guys could be focusing on within the town and problems. Like, we don't have water and sewer for businesses along the 55 corridor. It also, you can go find grants to improve our infrastructure. There's lots of things that could be focused on and that you guys could be focused on, rather than going into an independent department that seems to be effectively working. So those are my problems. I've lived here for 13 years, and I feel like most of the departments in our town that are effective and efficient and successful have been more independent, such as the highway department, the library per se, and the rec department, and have not necessarily fallen underneath the purview of the council and the supervisor. And I also say, if you don't agree with what's going on, if you guys are residents, you can go to the ballot and you can vote against that person, against that candidate. If I don't like what you guys are doing, I can vote against you. And I think that, don't take it out of our hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Crane?
Bill Crane, 254 Gardner Hollow Road. I'd like to start with three observations. First, that the resolution promises to save the townspeople money. Second, that it will take away an elected position. This is difficult for me because as a believer in democracy, I hate to abolish elected positions. This expresses the will of the people, and it's hard to restore that. I hate to see that happen. Third observation is that the resolution emerges against a backdrop of a lot of conflict. There have been investigations, there have been complaints, and so on. My main question for you is, can't this be negotiated without changing the law? Isn't it possible? You have a union here, the Teamsters Union. You have a board. You guys successfully, in my opinion, negotiated and did a great job around the overtime issue. From what I know, I was impressed by that. The Teamsters, I was vice president of the Board of Education in Teaneck, New Jersey, a much larger town. We had to deal with the Teamsters. The Teamsters were open to negotiation, despite their reputation in their appearance at the Republican convention. They were open to negotiation. The locals, I think, are worth a try. I would ask the board to step up, initiate, it's going to be hard, but initiate some negotiations. I'd ask the Teamsters to step in and negotiate. And as the last speaker said, I'd hate to see the town just preoccupied with this one issue. There's other issues in town, especially the environment, the water and the trees and the environmental issues, which are dear to my heart. I hate to see us preoccupied with this. I know both sides will say, well, we've tried in the past to resolve this, but the other side is wrong, they're stubborn and so on. But I would ask you to give it a try. Give it another try. See if we can work this out before going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Karen Madden?
Good evening. First of all, let me say, I'd like to ask the audience a question. Sure.
You're not Karen Madden?
You want my name?
No, we're doing them in the order that
Okay.
people signed in. So we've got, if you didn't sign in, you can speak after everyone who signed in, okay?
Please.
Sure.
I'm Karen Madden. I'm up on Gardner Hollow Road, 463. I've been there for 38 years. And I have to say, over those years, in general, the roads in Poquag, Beekman, town of Beekman, have been excellent. I believe under Tony's helm, even better. Tony has been very, very responsive to the point of, I've never called him at 2 o'clock in the morning. I never needed to get out at 2 o'clock in the morning. But it's a dead-end road. It's a 1.5 mile, 2-mile dead-end road. If somebody at the top of the hill did need to get out at 2 o'clock in the morning for an emergency, would this new plan be able to address that? I heard things like, oh, it's going to make things like routine maintenance and special projects more efficient. Well, what happens to the emergencies? This could impact the safety of the people who live in the town of Beekman, especially on these rural roads that we all see. My question overall is, it says it's going to be a money saver. Okay, there's other benefits, but there's a money saver. How is this analysis done? Can we see the analysis of it? Because if it's just because, oh, I don't want to have to work with somebody in particular, therefore it's going to make my job easier, well, that's not really a cost savings to the residents. And then if it is a cost savings, well, where's that money going to go? I don't know. I have no idea. Are you going to refund taxes? I doubt it. All right. So I guess my point is, there was a gentleman earlier who made a comment saying, if it works, don't fix it. I guess I would say to that, if it works, don't change it, work with it. And just as I think Bill Crane mentioned, you can work together. You know, you may have some personality differences, but there's a functional, very well-run, maintained highway department here. Our roads are beautiful, and I'd like to see that continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Eric Joshua?
Ezio, do you have your last name?
I'm Eric
Matt.
Johnson.
Yes.
I live at 438 Gardner Hollow. You hear a theme here, I think. There's a reason, because the road is a very important road for us, and it's a dead-end road to 2 miles, and that's serious. And I'll say there are 3 things that I want to make since there's only 3 minutes. One is an issue about accountability. The second is about expertise, and the third is about safety. Basically, what this law does is remove the supervisor from direct reports to us, the people. It's a very important ability we have, basically say yay or nay every 2 years. And I'm sorry, this introduces another layer, maybe 2 layers of bureaucracy to that. I don't know who to call at 2 in the morning. When the road berms break and there's flooding on our property, who do we call? So that's one, accountability. A second is expertise. There is a lot of knowledge that's associated with maintaining highways. I mean, when you talk to Tony, you know what kind of drain goes in. That's not the same knowledge that is involved in repairing teeter-totters. I mean, this is actually a very serious set of knowledge that has to be concentrated. There's specialization. I teach management. Specialization is important. Finally, safety. First responders who cannot get to, we've had neighbors who've had heart attacks. First responders that get to them, that is truly a matter of life and death. So we're not talking about simple issues here about, plowing, a parking lot. We're talking about basically people's ability to get fire, ambulance, and other things. So sorry I'm getting worked up, but it's really important. And frankly, given the turnout I see tonight and the attitude, it seems very odd that this is going to referendum, since there's such really strong, vehement opposition to this. Why waste people's time when there's obviously a lot of support for the current arrangement? Thank you very much.
Brian Joseph Ryan?
Good evening, thank you. Brian J. Ryan, 105 Gabriel's Path, Bequag. I've been a resident of the town of Beekman with my wife Patty for 34 years. I just want to personally thank Tony and all his crew for all the many years of service and taking care of our roads. Speaking as a former first responder, I commuted down to Conic Parkway for over 30 years. I depended on Tony and his crew to keep our roads clear. They never let me down. I worked various hours around the clock. I was called out all times during the night, 3 or 4 in the morning. Rain or snow or sleet, I had to go, and I knew the roads would be taken care of. So I want to personally thank Tony and his crew for that. Just a little anecdotal recognition from one person's perspective. As the gentleman said initially, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm reading the language here regarding the Commissioner of Public Works, an appointed position who would serve, if I understand correctly, the language that's written here, would serve at the pleasure of the board. Is that correct?
Yes.
When you appoint a public Commissioner of Public Works, does he or she serve at your pleasure? The at-will employee?
It's really not a question and answer. You make.
Yeah, okay, I'm just throwing it out there, it's wrong. Fair enough. So that's one question I have to speak of. Tony is accountable to everyone here in the audience, the people, we the people. And every 2-year, 4-year, whenever his term is up, he's up for re-election, and he's accountable. It's called accountability, and I believe I speak for people sitting here tonight, at least some of them, that we want that accountability. We want that voice in our government. So again, it's carefully worded language in here. Legal framework was explained very, very nicely. Thank you. But there's some language in here. The town's present intention is to appoint the current elected highway superintendent to fill the appointed position of highway superintendent. It's your present intention. What are the qualifications of the new appointed highway superintendent? Will those qualifications be laid out to the town, to the people in the town? And again, my concern is that it appears that a bit of an overreach on your part. Again, the highway department's done a phenomenal job. There are some things to work out budgetary-wise and organizational function-wise as far as maintenance and the parks as well as the highway department. That could be worked out. That could be hammered out. That's called negotiation. So I thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Tony, thank you.
Tom Mullins?
Can I speak now?
Tom Mullins.
We still have more people.
Okay.
See here?
Tom Mullins, Roosevelt Drive, Poquay. I want to address Ezio. Several years ago, when Tony Coviello was the superintendent of highways, there was a referendum to increase his term from 2 to 4 years. That was something you supported and the town voted for and won consistency in the position of highway department. You express in your proposal that you're qualified to now appoint political cronies to your position in this new proposal of the town highway department. So Ezio, let's talk about qualifications. You sat on a board that appointed Andrew Foreman, who was a crony out of the Republican Party, to the position of controller. Over that period of time, Ezio, we found out his lack of competence cost us $500,000. So you're asking everybody here in the town to trust a group of people who have no qualifications to determine what a highway superintendent does. We've all lived here and we see the roads. We see Tony Coviello, we see his workers. There's no better highway department that we could have in Dutchess County than what we have here in the town of Beekman. Your local law facts, really, it's your opinion. It's not facts. Look at labor law. You're going to now appoint people who's duly elected. Here's how this works. You tell us you're going to give him his job. And then you give him an order on Monday. That's completely ridiculous. And he says, that's ridiculous. And then you say, whoa, he was insubordinate on Tuesday. On Wednesday, you're bringing him up on charges. Thursday, he has his hearing, and Friday, you fire him. That's what a political board does. We need checks and balances. That's why the state constitution has elected positions. Your elected positions and his elected position. There's a town clerk who's elected, tax receiver, checks and balances. We can't trust 5 people to make a decision for a town of 10,000 people. Because while you think you may make it right now, what happens when you're not here? You have to plan for the future. Because if this board changes and we got 5 village idiots, not to say we don't have that now, then we don't even know what competence is down the road. We have a very competent town highway super, who, by the way, probably garners more votes each election than anybody sitting here at the table. Thank you.
Maureen Hazel?
Okay.
Scott Berardo.
Scott Berardo, 31 Bush Creek Lane. I don't usually agree with Tom on many things, but I do agree with him on a lot of stuff he just said. I do think that the bigger government gets, the more corrupt it could possibly become. I don't really know Mr. Coviello. I really don't know you, other than the fact of maybe bumping into you in the supermarket or something. But I am a firm believer that each position, if it's an elected position, should be an elected position. Reading some of the stuff that you put on there about the local law facts, we're going to combine possibly people from rec department to work with the highway department. That's what I kind of interpret it as. Are we going to have a lifeguard that's working at the rec go out there and jump out there? Well, that's what the law says.
No, it says the maintenance department.
What's that?
The maintenance department.
Oh, but it says we can combine from different departments. It doesn't really specifically say that. The amount of training that these men get and the amount of classes that they have to take for their jobs is astronomical. All right? And I know they have to do it. I've done it. The fact that we're going to sit there and just kind of, because you guys can't get along, it seems kind of ridiculous. It seems very insulting to me and everybody else in this room that you guys were even having this conversation. This man is elected. He should be, if you don't like him, put somebody else up that you think can do a better job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Selena Ruger.
My name's Selena Ruger. I live at 120 Gold Road. I have lived in this town for 43 years, and I've never seen roads like they are, as well as with Tony being here. I'm also one of the school bus drivers that travels these roads on a daily basis, okay? And I'm all for Tony, and I thought this was for you guys to want to get rid of him until you guys said it's about combining it. Well, I don't think combining it is going to save you any money anywhere. And I also want to know what you're teaching us as adults to try to get rid of someone who's elective, because you're taking away our say. What am I to tell my kids? What am I to answer when my school children ask me? Because I'm telling you, this floats around on social media. They all see it. They'll ask any adult that will give them an answer. And if they're going to be like, well, why are they going to get rid of Tony? Well, what am I going to say? Because they apparently don't like him? And they're like, well, y'all voted for him and everything. Well, they apparently don't want your votes no more because they don't care. And I'm sorry, I think taking away an elected position is not good, because you got a ton of people here in this town coming out to support him and his position that we all voted for, that you guys want to take away. He knows more about these roads and everything just as much as I do, because I travel them on a daily basis in a big yellow vehicle. And I'm going to tell you this, my boss knew nothing. The first year he started, he came from a transportation department that was basically a parking lot, not literally a whole school district and everything. And when you go and ask him, well, what are you going to do about this, or what are we going to do about that? He goes, I don't know. We want someone who knows. And by taking away our voice to elect someone who knows what they're doing isn't good. Okay? Like everybody keeps saying, ain't broke, don't fix.
Tara Langworthy.
I think as a grown-up, I'm perfectly capable of addressing the board and speaking to my neighbors at the same time. Good evening, I'm Tara Langworthy. I live at 19 Washburn Road. I'd like to begin by addressing two components of the presentation we were given. First, it says they do not intend to appoint anyone except our current superintendent. Of course they have to say that. They want to mollify you. If you believe, and they will appoint him, but as someone else eloquently pointed out, they'll find some way to push a button to push him out. Otherwise, they wouldn't need this law, because Tony has been endorsed election over election over election over election by the people he serves. I don't know what more qualifications you think you need. Secondly, I don't know your bookkeeper. I'm sure she's a fine bookkeeper. However, the notion that moving funds between departments is expensive and antiquated is absurd. I am the CFO of two not-for-profits. I work for a multi-million-dollar man who owns multiple companies. I move money between those every day in the current scope of my work. It doesn't cost him anything. I'm paid to do it. So how is this to ever save us any money? Are you paying her overtime to do this now? and therefore you won't have to pay her overtime? I doubt it. I encourage you to get with your neighbors. And those of you on the board who probably don't agree with this decision, but you're playing nice, go knock on the doors of your neighbors. Tell them what's at stake in November. The safety of our roads, the safety of our families, the integrity of the government in this town is at stake in November. Get involved, get out the vote, and keep Tony Coviello an elected official. Thank you.
Cheryl Brooks.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Brooks, 20 Ferris Glen in Dalton Farm. First, I'd like to thank Tony. I've known Tony for many years. I've lived in Dalton Farm for 24 years. Many of you have talked about the roads, and yes, the roads are spectacular. No issue there. But there's other items that Tony and his team address on a day-to-day basis that many of you may not even realize. Some examples that I personally am involved in include, I noticed on Recreation Road years ago, many deer crossing Recreation Road, but no deer crossing signs on either side to prepare drivers for what could come. I contacted him. He said I might have it in the storeroom, the warehouse. Immediately, he had them installed. I also recently took a very early morning walk, ended up at the intersection of Recreation Road and Route 55. The stop sign was on the ground. I called him at the crack of dawn, said the stop sign is down. That's a major intersection on 55. Can you please fix it? He got out there and he and his team fixed it instantaneously. I've also personally picked up trash off the side of the road, but the bigger items that I can't get into my car or figure out a way to discard myself, I've brought to the side of the road. For example, car tires, computer equipment, computer chair. Called Tony, I said, Tony, if I bring this stuff up to the side of the road, can you or one of your team members please get rid of this stuff appropriately? Again, he said, as soon as we get done with whatever was the priority for the day, we'll go over there and we'll get that off the road, and he does it. Also, during cleanup day one year, my husband and I were going to be out of town. We wanted to get rid of a couch. I contacted him. I said, we're not going to be there during the hours of the drop-off. Any way you can help me? Yes, drop it. We'll put it to the side. We'll put it in the bin when we, later in the day. So these are smaller other items that maybe people don't focus on that he and his team actually do. And I just want to, again, thank Tony and his team. He's an invaluable member to our community and to our society. I also want to say, this is odd that we're here. It really is. It's like it kind of came out of the blue. And I really do have a lack of faith in the board overseeing Tony's duties. And the reason I say that is, I recently had 2 companies come to my house to provide bids for some work that I would like to have done. Those projects will require a permit that will be required for me to obtain through the town of Beekman. One company said, the town of Beekman is so difficult to deal with. Good luck with getting that in a timely fashion. The next company said, the town of Beekman is brutal to work with. So your reputation as a board really is not very good, and I would highly recommend that you really work on the image that you portray and the service that you provide to our community, because the perception is, it's not that good. And that's not just coming from me, that's coming from a third party.
Okay, thank you.
I have one last thing to say. Did I have one more minute? No, she didn't. Last minute. So the last thing I want to say is, by profession, I'm a human resources professional. Tony has commented that he has experienced a hostile work environment by certain board members. It is essential and required that that be addressed immediately and be stopped immediately.
Mike Heaslip.
Thank you. My name is Mike Heaslip. I'm 900 Beekman Road. I moved up here to the town of Beekman in 2015. In 2016, I started working in the municipal industry. I've worked on many projects through multiple counties in the Hudson Valley area, and I've seen my handful of highway departments and Department of Public Works and different board members and different boards and their level of involvement on multiple projects that I've worked with. And I have a hard time believing that we're gonna see a cost savings by going through with this change. You know, there's an old saying out there, time is money. And a lot of the times where I've had to have heavy involvement with the town board, it's delayed projects, you know, increases the duration of the projects, and that all accounts to additional costs through different types of projects that we've worked on and completed with towns. You know, Tony's group here, you know, they've done a great job ever since I've moved here in Beekman. I see the functionality in so many different highway departments and departments of public works and everything. And their leaders are very important people. And, you know, I've gotten to know Tony over the years, working in the municipal field, and he's been nothing but a pleasure to work with. And I just want to applaud everybody for coming out and giving your support to Tony and his crew. They do an absolute wonderful job. They're one of the better highway departments that I've gotten the pleasure of working with, and there's some pretty bad ones out there, and the town of Beekman's is not. They're top notch. So again, thank you for coming out and supporting Tony. They do a great job, and let's make sure this doesn't go through in November.
Kate Blake.
Good evening. My name is Kate Blake at 231 Clap Hill Road. I've been here for about 15 years. Before I start with my pre-prepared notes, I just want to say, Tony, you're amazing. You've always been amazing. I can be a little bit of a harsh critic. I'm sure you remember when you first came to my house to get the signature for your run, and I said as much, but ever since then, you have been nothing but a benefit to this community. And I wasn't going to say this, but on the topic of the permits and the COs, I had a similar experience last summer where I was trying to get work done on my house, and my contractor called the town, and the town said, "You still have an open permit." I didn't, and when I called the town, that was rectified, but why did I have to go to that trouble to do that when that's just a basic job function? That said, to my notes, I am a believer in efficient government, and I think that there are reasons why Beekman might want to consider this, in theory. But in practice, I'm not sure we're at a place as a town where this proposal makes sense. So far, residents have been supplied with minimal information about this proposal. What we have been supplied with references a fiscal and managerial analysis performed by the town. So far, we've heard from lots of professionals, municipal workers, HR professionals, bus drivers who travel our roads every day, first responders. I would like to add my perspective as somebody who works in financial services, frequently with the Internal Revenue Code. We need, as a community, to have that fiscal and managerial analysis made available to us. I was hopeful that this PowerPoint presentation would provide some of those details, but I'm actually less convinced after watching that presentation than I was when I came here tonight. We make very broad statements, as others have mentioned, like this will save us on taxes, without providing any basis for those statements. In the Internal Revenue Code, and I'm sure in other legal documents, every word matters. So I'd like to echo the sentiments of others tonight about the wording in that document, specifically the word intends. In the absence of any supporting documentation, the timing of this action is suggestive, at least from my perspective, of a retaliatory measure following the dispute that arose earlier this year regarding Highway Department overtime and time card management. I was just down here a few short months ago to speak on that topic at a previous meeting. I'm a busy working professional and mom. I don't want to waste my time, nor does everybody here, playing whack-a-mole with the board's personality disputes. And I'm not going to turn a blind eye to what creates the optics of vendetta referendums. And even if that isn't the case, perception is important, and optics can become a reality among the general public.
So given this history of conflict and hand with the timing of this proposal, I'm inclined to vote no should this come up for referendum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Greg DeSouza.
Good evening. I'm new to the community, about 3 years. I really don't know anybody. I have no real personal attachments to the board, to the highway department. I just want to let people know that. I do have family and friends who have lived here for 2 decades, but I came up from Yonkers 3 years ago. Backbone to any community is always the highway department. The first thing I tell people when they say, oh, how's it up there? I say, it's amazing because we have an amazing highway department. I work in public safety. I'm a fire officer, so I deal with boards. I've been up to Albany. I've South Tony, DeNapoli. I had Yonkers budget squashed for the first time ever in the history of Yonkers because we reviewed so-called facts, and we showed the comptroller that those weren't facts. These aren't facts, like others have said, these are opinions. Everything in these slideshows are feel-good statements and words, but there's no real substance to it. We need to see the reason for this change. Anytime an elected person is appointed, that appointed person becomes a puppet, all right? These appointed people then can bring in who they want, and all of a sudden we're paying outside contractors instead of doing the good work that everybody's doing so far. I'm all over the place. I wasn't sure if I was gonna speak, and then I got kind of fired up by you guys. You guys are amazing. You spoke so perfectly. You've hit everything. I really don't need to say too much, but everybody knows that as soon as you appoint him, you're going to then find a way to eliminate him. You're insulting everybody's intelligence, and maybe it's penny wise, but it seems like it's going to be pound foolish. I just want to look real quick through some of my notes, but you talked about it's not going to affect the Teamsters. Anytime you violate a contract, you know, you're going to spend money and they're going to end up winning because you're violating their contract. They're going to grieve it, they're going to win, you're going to waste money. It's been said before tonight, this is a power grab, it's smoke and mirrors, and all we're really doing here is robbing Peter to pay Paul to what's already been said. There's no problem here. There's nothing that needs to be done, and I hope we can rally the troops and make sure this gets defeated come November. Thank you very much.
Peter DeLuca.
I too was debating whether to speak or not, but yeah, I'm going to speak. When you say appointed, everybody has the right to vote. People should have the right to vote. If they want to vote for Tony, they vote for Tony. I actually personally worked with Town Highway with Tony for about 7 years, whatever. I don't remember how many years, whatever. He ran the department very well. The trucks were cleaned. They cared for the equipment. And when you say costs, the cost of equipment and trucks today are insane. And budgets. I thought Tony did a great job of managing a budget with what he had. He treated his employees with respect, and one thing is, I'm not good at public speaking, so that's number one. Number two, I'm out of town. When I've been out of town, a bunch of people have said, "Oh, where do you live?" I say Beekman. Well, those roads are great. Once you get out of Beekman, I don't know. Those roads are bad in the winter. I said, well, we have a great town highway guy that knows what he's doing. When you want to combine two things, a ball field and pavement, are two different things. I went to school for agriculture. To take care of a field is a lot different than taking care of blacktop. There's two different totally things in that, and Tony has experience of roads for, like I said, I worked for him 8 years, did a great job, and I don't think you'll find anybody else better to do that type of work, and that actually cares. I've worked other plowing jobs. He called us in a little before the storms. Safety, he actually cared about his employees. I've worked for other plow companies. They'll call you in when the roads are covered. They don't care about your safety or your personal, your trucks. Tony cares, and you need somebody like that to run the department. Like I said, I lived here my whole life. The road's been never better. He cares, and to me, you can't not put a price on that. Safety is a big thing. If you want to take chances, I do, as you know, I do landscaping. It's not worth taking, in the winter when the roads are crap, is it really worth saving 10 hours if somebody gets hurt? I don't think it is. Thank you.
Pepper Jensen.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Pepper Jensen. I'm 237 Hines Road.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pepper Jensen. I'm a resident manager of the Bunkhouse Recovery Ranch. Unfortunately, Pat, our owner, is not able to be here today. I'm here to encourage the vote of no for the merger of the Public Works and Highway Superintendent Department. And as glaringly retaliatory the Madam Supervisor is taking against Tony, our Highway Superintendent, by attempting to convert his position into an appointed Public Works role. This maneuver is a blatant attempt to undermine the democratic process and circumvent what's obviously the will of the people. It's no secret that this town has a history of engaging in unethical practices, some of which we've heard about today. The obstruction we've faced at Bunkhouse Recovery Ranch is a prime example of the town's persistent use of zoning laws as a weapon to hinder and obstruct the recovery of our veteran, public safety, and first responders from receiving the vital support they need to overcome their addiction. These actions are not only unethical, but also are in direct violation of federal anti-discrimination laws, specifically the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. The town's behavior is not just morally indefensible, but it's also legally questionable, as we're seeing tonight. I want to make it unequivocally clear that such actions will not be tolerated. The law is explicit in its protections, and any attempt to violate these protections through discriminatory zoning practices or retaliatory employment actions will be met with full force of legal recourse, which we, the people, are able to bring forth. We will not stand by and allow our community to be governed by individuals who engage in unlawful and unethical practices. We must hold our town officials accountable. The actions against Tony and the Bunkhouse Ranch are part of a broader pattern of misconduct that demands immediate attention and rectification. We demand transparency, integrity, and adherence to the law in all dealings by our town officials. You know, I'm all for us having elected positions, but we heard tonight about things that were going to save money and be more efficient. Sure sounds like if we want to get rid of elected positions and make it more efficient and cost effective, we should have all the roles here on this board appointed by Tony.
John Bishko.
How you doing? John Bishko, 55 Sterling Drive. Grew up here my whole life. Clearly, the town board knows Tony is a competent individual for his job because they're going to keep him as the highway superintendent. So clearly, that's not the issue here. I think the issue here is why we're changing this, okay? There's no reason for it. It's clearly a grasp for power on this town board. And I think that morally, I think some people need to go home and really think to themselves about why they're doing it. And what's the purpose and what's the goal behind it. You guys are up here to serve our community and the people of it. Do it correctly. This right here shows that you're not. We all have lives, would rather be home. I'm sure y'all would have like a quick meeting too, and it would be if bullshit like this wasn't brought up. Thank you.
Good evening.
Please
My
state your
name's
name.
Al Scarkilli, and I've lived in this town for 29 years. I've brought 2 children up in this town, and they have bought homes in this town, okay? This is a terrible, terrible thing that you guys are trying to do, all right? Absolutely terrible. I can't understand the purpose behind it. How many people out here know Tony Covello? How many people have called Tony when they had a problem? Okay, me included, okay? And you want to take him away. What's the purpose behind it? Can you tell these people what the purpose behind it? Is it micromanagement? Or do you want to run the entire town by yourself? I'm asking a question. I'm a resident of this town. I deserve an answer. Do you want to run this town by yourself?
It's not.
You could say yes, you could say no. I don't hear anything. These people want an answer. You're not giving them an answer. Why?
She works for us.
Because you don't have an answer. Can you drive a tow truck? Can you drive a snowplow? Tony can. If he needs be, he can get on a machine and go out in the field and do what he has to do. You can't. This is 100% wrong what you're trying to do. I'm asking the board to say no. I'm asking the board to put up their hand and say, no, we won't have this. This town wants him to stay. You have an answer why you don't want him to stay? You can't say money because I haven't heard one person in this town talk about money. Explain it. If you can't explain it, then you put your hand up and say, I have a motion. And the motion is, stop. If you can't do that, tell them why. Tell them why. Because the way they voted you in, they could vote you back out. Do we have any lawyers here? Can a lawyer tell me what's legal? What's not legal? Can we ask you to leave? Can we say, we don't want you as a town supervisor because you're hurting the town?
We can impeach her. 2,100 signatures. Moves her right out.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Willie Dinkins, 30 Duncan Road. So let's just for an instant, I know everything's going on, let's talk about it's not about competence, right? It's not about the people, it's not about the fight, whatever it is. And in there are some wording of things like speaking about the board or, you know, you guys being able to judge the competence of somebody and having the ability to do that, which that kind of language leads you to believe that you do have questions about people's use of accountability for departments that they have, their accountability for funds, their knowledge, competence, expertise. Because when you look at it, right, that's a big chunk of that paragraph. Also, if there is something about saving money or the way that it's ran and how we can cross-utilize resources and whatnot, before you make a decision like this, instead of just saying, hey, we want to change the law, like we said, you know, SWOT analysis was brought up, a bunch of different tools. I assume, I would hope, that there was enough confidence to do those kind of things and do them well, right? So why were those never released, right? I don't believe that that would be any kind of confidentiality thing, something that we're not allowed to see as, you know, voters, as citizens, you know, in the town. So if that's the case, though, then why? Why not? Because that would be easy. If you want to make the change and you want to have the support of the people here, then put it out and say, hey, we're going to be able to save you 50% on the costs that go out to this, or we're going to save 25. We didn't hear this. What we have heard, for whatever reason, one-sided about what's going on, at least the one side is allowed to, you know, speak to it and talk about the craziness that was going on and overtime and allegations of abuse of pay and whatnot, but we didn't hear the other side or any proof of saying, hey, you know what, we only accounted for 100 hours, they're saying there's 2 hours. This whole time, there's been nothing about that, right? No kind of proof, no information. Instead, we're just treated like we don't know any better and said, hey, we're gonna make the decisions, we're your parents, you guys don't know anything, here's what we're gonna do. What we could do instead is say, hey, here's the information, here's the data. As you hear, there are plenty of people that are here that have spoken up that have backgrounds to be able to understand that stuff, right? You know, whether it's myself, other people work in finance, so just release it. And that's probably you would have less trouble, right? We'd have less of a leg to stand on. And just, I wanna say, I grew up in LaGrange. I've lived here for about 5 years now. There's been 2 times I've had interactions, and I'm not one to even stand up and talk about this stuff, I'll watch them there. I don't know, a year ago or so, I had a question about drainage on my road. I sent an email at 7 o'clock in the morning because I had a day off of work. I think he called me at like 8:30 in the morning. I can't think of anywhere, and I work for the government also, I can't think of anywhere that kind of response, you can't even get that response from people you pay a bunch of money to for services that quickly, right? You gotta wait years, or not years, but you know, days, weeks. And then just the other day, my mother-in-law called about brush issues that were actually not even on a town road, it's 55 in Dorn there, because she had concerns about pulling out in safety and almost getting hit before. I think we just saw a post from the owner of ECS, you know, he was out like 2 days later or a day later taking care of that, and that's not even his responsibility. So, I mean, there's multiple things here, but I want that to take into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Debbie Fennell. I live on 117 Benton Moore Road, and I'm just last minute trying to address this issue from my perspective. I'm a budget finance person. I understand that you might be trying to save the town money, but we're not seeing anything. When I found out about this, I looked on the website, I searched everywhere to try and get information. There is no information out there. Just like when the $300,000 was taken from his budget, I went to the town hall and asked, can I see the budgets? Can anybody please explain this to me? And I got no explanation. I'm just saying that if you want to be helpful for people to be able to make a decision, you need to provide the information. And the information that you provided today on the screen there was not ample. And it was just not sufficient for anybody to make any kind of decision. And therefore, it makes all of us people feel like you are not coming about this in a good way, but in a bad way. And I will say this, that Tony has come to my house and has done work outside with drainage issues. He has also, we've had a lot of issues with water on the road with a new development up on the hill. It's caused a lot of issues in my area, and he's been very helpful with that. He's also, and I can tell you this from very good experience because I'm not far from the East Fishkill town border. Going onto East Fishkill, those roads are terrible. Then as soon as you pass the line, there's like this relief in the winter when you come onto the Beekman roads, because the Beekman roads are just outstanding. His whole department has been fantastic to our neighborhood, I know that, and to our town. And I very much appreciate them. I'm not saying that you don't have a valid points, but you're not sharing the information. So without sharing that information, like the SWOT analysis, like any other financial analysis, and I would really like to know how we're going to get that information. How are we going to access that in the future to make an informed decision? Because I believe this whole entire town will be voting one way or another in November. And at this moment in time, I plan to say no to this resolution. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Bridget Rivera, 3 Bow Lane, LaGrangeville. I am not a good talker, so I'm going to sound like the other guy. But I just want to know, when are these questions going to be answered and where can we see them of what everybody asked today?
We're going to be working on it in the next few months, and it'll be sent out well before
Why would it
November's
take so
election.
long for 3 months?
we will be releasing things. We're working on a new website. When the new website is released, we will release them.
Okay, and I do want to say that Tony and his workers are amazing, and the town parks, I don't know if they're here, they're amazing, and there should be no reason why we're mixing and mingling. It's not just the name Tony that we're trying to save, we're trying to make sure that we have each department. And I'd like to know, are all the other towns in the whole entire state of New York also doing the same thing? And if not, why? Why is it just us? Why are you taking away our right to vote? So I personally know you, Tony, and the workers. I've never seen you guys slacking, sitting on the side road, eating, drinking, yelling profanity. You have personally almost hit probably every single house in the whole entire Beekman community, and everybody knows your name. They might not know each of your guys' names, but they respect you and know that you guys are working like amazing. So that personally, that he's gone out and hit so many people's lives when I don't know half of you guys. I've had to hear it from other people and say, who the hell is that person? Who's that lady? Who's that man? What are they doing? You haven't put yourself out there enough for the whole community to know you. So you should make a point to do that and answer everybody's freaking questions in a timely manner, not 2 months. It should be done within the 3 days, because we've all taken time out of our lives to come here to make a point that this is wrong and that you're taking away our right to vote. So get the answers quickly.
Hi, my name is Caitlin DeLuca. My husband spoke earlier. He spoke about landscaping stuff. I'm actually going to speak about how you need a CDL person to be appointed if you're going to appoint someone. As a daughter whose father has a CDL, it can take up to a full year before they get their CDL. So who are you going to appoint that has a CDL? Because someone random can't drive one of those trucks and be out there. You need someone that has a CDL. And all these guys here, they have CDLs, or almost all of them do. So that's something you need to keep in mind. Now, I am pregnant, and now I'm due in December, and now I don't think my roads are gonna be safe for me to go to the hospital at 2 a.m. in the morning. So thank you very much.
At this point, does anyone else like to speak? Okay. I make a motion to close the public hearing at
8:08.
At 8:08? Second?
So I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. I would like, the Board of Elections has approximately 9,000 registered voters in Beekman. This resolution allows for the democratic process to allow all to vote on this in November. The residents will be able to make their decision in November, and we will be providing material prior to the November vote, so everyone understands what we're attempting to do. At this point, I make a motion. To submit to the town board adopting a resolution to adopt local law number 1, 2024. Councilman Lemak, please read the resolution. Can you pass that to the town clerk?
Whereas the resolution was duly adopted by the town board of the town of Beekman on June 25th, 2024, designated itself as lead agency pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and rescheduling a public hearing to be held by said governing body on July 23rd, 2024 at 6:45 p.m. at Town of Beekman Town Hall to hear all interested persons on proposed local law to abolish the elected office of Town Superintendent of Highways and to create a consolidated Department of Public Works. And whereas the notice of said public hearing was duly advertised in the official newspaper of said town according to law, and whereas said public hearing was held on July 23rd, 2024 at the town hall, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf or in opposition to said proposed local law, and whereas the town board of the town of Beekman, after due deliberation, finds it in the best interest of said town to adopt said local law, now therefore be it resolved, the town board finds, 1, that the proposed local law is classified as an unlisted action under SECRA, It has no significant adverse environmental impacts and issues a negative declaration thereon. 2, that the adoption of the proposed local law is in the best interest of the residents of the town, and hereby adopts said local law number 1 of 2024 entitled abolishing the elected office of town superintendent of highways and creating a Department of Public Works. And 3, hereby directs the town clerk or her designee, whatever that is. Enter said local law in the minutes of the meeting and in the local law book of the town of Beekman, and to give due notice to the adoption of the said local law and the Secretary of the State of New York, that this local law is subject to mandatory referendum in accordance with the New York State Municipality Home Rule Law.
A second?
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Capillari?
Aye.
Councilman Battleini?
Aye.
Councilman Limek?
Aye.
Councilwoman Warman? Aye. Supervisor Cavucci?
Aye.
Resolution passed.
Do you want to take that down? Yeah, you can take it down. Okay. Thank you for everyone coming. I make a motion to close the meeting tonight, the town board meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.